Welcome to the Will and Dave Show, where we talk about hard things, whether it's comfortable or not. We think those conversations are necessary and important. We think that having different opinions is crucial to a healthy discourse. So saddle up, enjoy the fireside chat.
Hey, Will.
How's it going, Dave?
It's going, my friend.
You sound a little bit stuffed up there.
I'm good. The world has a flu.
No, really?
Yeah, really.
We're going to call it that. That's a good code word for it today.
As we might be touching on it a little bit every now and then. So yeah, it is a good
briefly,
code word.
Very briefly.
Yes.
But we're still gonna keep as far clear of that portion of the conversation as humanly possible, because some wounds don't heal.
I was talking to your mom about one of our topics today, and she was saying, well, how are you going to mention that without using those words that we don't say anymore? And I'm like, we're going to get creative.
Yeah.
So here we are getting creative.
Mm-hmm.
So what'd you do all week?
Worked mostly, which is good because I haven't worked a full week in a while now. So this was about as close to a full week as we've gotten.
Oh, good. Are you working now, or are you cleaning and building stuff still?
Mixture. We cleaned and built for the first half of the week, and then Thursday, Friday, we were building.
So I heard a story, and you can relay this story about after you came back to work on Monday, what was on the whiteboard.
For those of you who were listening last week, I used the word accoutrement in our sponsorship bit for Northern Truss. My uncle, who owns Northern Truss and is my boss, gave me some flack for using the word accoutrement in his business. He's like, I don't know what accoutrement is, and we don't sell it. He obviously knows what the word means. He's jerking my chain, and I deserved it.
Hey, I was just impressed that my brother's watching the show.
Hey, I'm happy.
Or did somebody let him in on the secret? Maybe Kyle told him.
I thought you did, honestly.
No, I did not. I heard about it after the fact. So that was your week?
Yeah.
In my week, a number of friends of mine have come down with the flu. And it's a positive flu. And so it sort of changed the way we're doing things this week. So
a lot of working from home.
A lot of working from home. Yeah. Because of who I am, not so much working from home, but I don't care. But it did alter my week because I can't hang out at the office. So before we get into the show, and there's a lot in the show, we have a sponsor to thank, our main sponsor. And our means of thanking her today is going to be recording her jingle.
Yes.
So we're going to play her little intro for her show, and we're going to record her intro in a number of different voices. I say we really, really loosely. It will not be we record. I'm going to hit the record button. You're going to do the multiple voices for her show. As she really liked that, what we were doing for ours on the podcast. So
happy to help. It's a blast back to Shapes of Success.
Yes.
Shapes of Success.
Shapes of Success.
Blast back to the past.
So here's her intro. First stitched by Susan. And you are going to record a line over that says whatever I sent you in the text. And she would like a few different voices. I know her favorites, Mrs. Doubtfire, the French, Sean Connery.
Oh, she wants Sean. I'll try.
Come
I'll
on.
try.
It's your
I'll
mom's
try.
It's your mom's flame.
I
Come
will
on.
try.
And then we were talking about the Bob Ross, as your mom has been described as the Bob Ross of quilting.
Of quilting.
And if we can come up with something, but it's up to you on that one. And whatever else you want to do, we're just going to get about half a dozen in for her as we thank our sponsor, Stitched by Susan. And this is how we do it.
Do you want to run the spot for Northern Trust while I listen to Bob Ross's voice and try to get accustomed to it?
Sure, I'll do. I don't have a spot. It's just going to be me, and I'll mute you, and you can do your thing.
Works for me.
The other sponsor of the show who sells all sorts of roof systems and floor systems, and as William has said, all the accoutrements thereof, is Northern Truss in Fort St. John, owned by no other than my brother, and an amazing guy, and as William will say, an amazing boss, and they are amazing sponsors. So we just would like to thank Northern Truss for sponsoring this episode. I don't know if William's ready, but we're going to hop in and see if he has this all figured out yet. I need to take that off.
That's okay.
Okay, do you have it figured out?
It's like kind of like a Midwest. Just it's the softness that it's going to be tricky for me because my voice isn't particularly soft.
If we don't figure it out for this week, we can do it next week in the slot. So
we have the power.
We do. And you have the line.
What's so fantastic about this? Yes. Okay.
Whenever you're ready, I will mute myself and you go ahead.
Okay. Fire away. Welcome to Quinty. Let me try again. Start again, shall we?
Okay, we're going to have fun doing this.
Thanks. Here we go again. Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith. That's just soft painter voice.
If you can go a little bit slower would be better for Bob Ross or for anything, actually, because I got to make this last for about 6 or 8 seconds. So.
Okay. Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith.
Who's next?
I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna do one with an even harsher drawl on it, just because I want to try it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Like a real Southern bumpkin drawl. Here we go. Ready?
You betcha. Have at her.
Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith.
I'll call that the Southern drawl.
Southern drawl.
It's
all to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith.
It's almost a Matthew McConaughey, that Southern drawl. You should do your Matthew McConaughey.
I'll try. I haven't done it in forever.
Okay.
Here we go. Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith. Green light.
Green light. Actually, you can put... Are you seeing her comment there?
Yep.
You can
put happy little things anywhere on the quilt too.
You did one in the middle there. I'm not sure what it was.
It's like I was trying to do kind of a Texan drawl, like would it be North Texan? I can't remember which region.
Have at her. Do it again, guys. I think I talked over you.
Okay, here we go. Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith.
I like that. Okay.
I try to imagine myself having a thick, bushy mustache when I say it. Or you know what? She wants silly. I'll give her silly.
Okay.
I'll give her the Major General from Pirates of Penzance.
Oh, there we go.
Here we go. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith.
Now do that one again and back off the mic a little bit because you blew my ears out.
Okay. Here we go. Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith. And when you say orphan, do you mean orphan, a child who has lost his parents, or orphan frequently?
That might make it in, by the way.
That's just for her.
Okay, let's go for French.
French, okay. Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith.
And if you can add a little bit of a pause after you're live and scripted.
Right.
And anything else?
Ready?
Yep.
I'll read you the French one to give a little more of a pause on it.
Okay.
Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith.
Awesome. Okay.
Mrs. Doubtfire was the other one that she had wanted. Okay.
And you can do the hello on this one as long as you back off the mic and come back on it for the rest.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Hello. Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith. That was quite Mrs. Doubtfire. That was a little more British, but yeah, I'll roll with it.
Yeah, it was good. Sean Connery.
All right.
Okay,
here we go. Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith. That's like right up there with trying to say "purple burglar alarm" with a Scottish accent. That's doesn't roll off the tongue nicely. Susan Smith. Have you ever seen those videos of people from like Glasgow trying to say "purple burglar alarm"?
No, I have not.
It's so funny. Purple burglar alarm. Purple burglar alarm. It doesn't work well with just the shape your mouth is in. It doesn't jive.
Are you able to do anything from Canada?
I mean, I can do like Canadian hick.
Sure.
Okay. Here we go. Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith, eh?
I think she'll like the A.
First reality show, eh? Should I put the A at the end of reality show? Welcome to Quilting's first reality show, eh? Live and unscripted with Susan Smith.
Well, I'll grab one of those. Okay.
Yeah, there you
go. So I know you're watching, Susan. Do you have anything else that you'd like in there? Because you're running the show. Sean is not going to work, Mom says.
Yeah. Sean Connery is not, no. Susan Smith.
Are you able to do the Foghorn Leghorn?
All right.
I say, boy.
I'm gonna have to back off a little bit.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yep.
I say welcome to Quilting's first reality show, live and unscripted with Susan Smith. Got to really stretch out that live and unscripted.
I don't know why Sean won't work.
All about. Got to get those diphthongs.
What were some of the ones that we did for Shape by Success? I know you did an Arnold one.
A terrible Arnold.
We did
a Yoda one.
Oh, yes.
I'd have to mix the words up for this.
Oh, you'll figure it out.
Welcome to Quilting's first reality show. Yes. Unscripted and live with Susan Smith. Yes.
I can't do Yoda. Well, it's been a long time. These are things that take practice, Dave, and actual talent.
You have the talent. Now we're getting the practice. Okay, that gives us enough I can play with it. If we need more, we
do more. She's our sponsor every bloody week, so we've always got time for more.
Well, the beauty of this is we are the sponsor of her podcast, which is absolutely killing it, and we get a free sponsorship because we know the owner of it. So if you're,
it's not what you know, it's who you know.
That's right. So if you're curious about her podcast, it is, I have to get this right, Measure Twice, Cut Once
Yeah.
by Stitched by Susan. And it is on every one of the major...
Everywhere fine podcasts are found.
That's the phrase. Everywhere fine
That's
podcasts
the
are
phrase.
found. That's the phrase.
Everywhere fine podcasts are found.
Yes. We are as well, but we're harder to find.
Yeah, because we're still niche.
That's right.
We just haven't blossomed yet. We haven't crawled out of our cocoon.
So, William, the topic this week...
Well, it's similar to the last couple of weeks. We're talking
Yes.
about conversations between people who don't agree or don't share the same views. And as we teased last week, this week is going to be between Jon Stewart and Bill O'Reilly on Bill O'Reilly's show. This is, I believe, the second time
Yes.
Jon Stewart was on the O'Reilly Factor. And this one is different from the other ones in the sense that where, if you remember last week's example where we had, I can't think of his name.
Was last week...
It was the mayor of New York, and why can't I remember the Fox News guy's name? I spent
Giuliani.
so many hours watching him.
Sean
No,
Hannity.
not-
Sean
not-
Hannity.
It's Sean Hannity's show.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
Sean Hannity's show. And
Yes,
I
I was
like
thinking a
Sean
week
Hannity.
before was
Yeah,
Sam Harris, but yes.
yes. So with Hannity, they bickered, they argued, they talked over each other constantly, and it was frustrating to listen to. But with Stewart and O'Reilly, you'll notice that there's a nice mixture here in the sense that they still do bicker. This isn't like the Sam Harris Ben Shapiro episode where they gave each other huge long stretches to talk without interruption and basically made goo-goo eyes at each other throughout the whole process because they both respect each other as intellectuals.
Right.
Here, it's two people who are very diametrically opposed and working in the same kind of TV and media space, but there's still that underlying thread of mutual respect in the way
Yes.
that they'll talk over each other, but then one of them will they'll be, okay, nope, I'm just going to back off, let him finish, let him do his thing. They'll start bickering, and then one of them will just be like, no, okay, go ahead. And I think in one of the clips as well, there's a certain level of consensus that gets reached as well. And it's really nice to see people who, in this sense, are bombastically opposed to each other,
Right.
still making time for each other to talk.
And it was interesting. I went after I was doing the editing this afternoon on the clips. I was going and looking at a few of their other interviews and debates, and they actually have been in colleges and debated each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very good. And it's they don't agree about much.
No.
And honestly, I was a fan of O'Reilly as in the years he was on the air. I don't know about his personal life, and apparently there were issues there. Although on air, I did respect how he carried himself. He was the precursor for Sean Hannity, and I think he gave Sean Hannity all of his worst attributes, but he did have conversations. So.
He had some class, even though I disagree with him in a professional sense. Again, I don't know about his personal life. I'm not going to comment on that. But in the professional sense, what he showed on the show, he had some class, at least some.
So with that, here is the first clip.
All right, President Obama, you know what I've noticed when I do your program? I go over, and the audience, they love President Obama, your audience, the guys who sit in the little bleachers.
That's right.
For them, it's like going to Lord's to go to your show because they know they're going to get...
Many have been healed.
Right.
Yes,
They know
there's
they're
no
going to get
question.
Obama, and it's going to be... So it's perceived that you are a big fan of the president. Has that changed at all?
The perception from the people at Lord's?
No. Let me rephrase the question.
All right.
How's President Obama doing so far?
Wow, that's a very broad question. I think in some areas he seems to be doing very well, but I think it depends on how you're looking at it.
But how do you look at it? Jon Stewart.
How do I look at how he's doing?
Yeah.
I'm torn. For me, I feel like I can't tell if he's a Jedi master playing chess on a 3-level board way ahead of us, or if this is kicking his ass. So
you really don't know?
Oh, I think it's very difficult to say. For one thing, those types of broad analysis, how's he doing? It doesn't lend itself to a very easy answer. I think there are certain areas that he seems to have made progress or stabilized certain areas. I'm appreciative of the fact that he has tried to re-engage the regulatory mechanism of the government.
Wow, the regulatory
mechanism.
That's way over my head.
The mechanism.
What is that?
And you're 6'5".
Yeah, and I have no idea
So
what you just
that's
said.
like I was throwing to Marcus Colston. I mean, that was like jumping out there.
So what is
the idea that we would have people there checking if there was lead in our toys.
Okay,
That kind of
so
thing.
protecting the folks using the federal government's power, he's made strides in doing that. You know, that's a pretty smart analysis. You know, a lot of people don't think you're smart.
Thank you very much. Wow.
Did you writers come up with that, or did you?
No, they're in my pocket.
Right.
I always
Do
bring
you have
a few
little
of them with
thing in
me.
it? You know, some of those guys like, have that little
Yeah,
thing.
no,
they
I
tell
got
you.
the IFB.
Regulatory.
Here's what I don't
mechanism.
understand. You're the
Right.
top-rated show.
By far.
On the top-rated network. And
By
look,
far.
I like Staples as much as the next guy, but
Right.
can a brother get a soft chair?
No.
Or
we
like
want
a table
people,
that's not
we want-
plexiglass?
You're lucky you're not hanging from your thumbs.
All right.
We want people uncomfortable out here.
All
okay.
right. I'm very uncomfortable.
All right. So
So,
It's so good.
okay,
It's so good.
yes, I really enjoyed Jon Stewart. If it wasn't apparent, this one was a pleasure to research. I loved researching this episode. It was great. I loved where Jon Stewart, when O'Reilly asks a huge question like, "How is President Obama doing?" or "Do you think he's doing a good job?" That's a similar question to things that Hannity would ask the guest on his show. You ask these big overarching questions, but the difference here is O'Reilly gave Jon Stewart the time to say, that's a really big question
Right.
and hard to answer. And so Jon Stewart then picked a small facet of that where he could give a clear and concise answer and gave
Right.
it. And O'Reilly gave him the time to present that. He let him speak that full thought. And it was a good thought. Like, he's like, yeah, that's good.
And
so
the banter
is
in
the one-
that, in the answer, just makes it enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's a hard topic, maybe. It's a big topic. Obama at the time was highly divisive.
Mhm.
And they were able to infuse a little bit of humanness, a little bit of humor into that conversation.
Yeah.
And I agree with, and this is one thing I think all journalists, they really enjoy doing, are the questions which have no answer.
Mhm.
Like, how's
Yeah.
Obama doing? It's so subjective.
Yeah. They pitch
And-
a question and it's a zero-sum game.
Right. So honestly, if he had, reworded a little bit and said, in your opinion, is he doing a good job? Or is he doing a bad job? It's a yes or no question, and you can elaborate. But that was not what that was, and yet it allowed for a conversation.
Mhm.
And that's what this is all about, is we
Yeah.
have to allow others the opportunity of engagement.
Yeah, and for the record, we didn't cherry pick that. That was the beginning of their show. That was it right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Was them jumping right into that.
Okay, on to clip 2.
Not even close, because they're also part of the journey. They're part
of the journey. Who's part of the journey?
The journey begins in the morning. It begins with the
Fox
innocent,
and Friends.
with the wide-eyed innocence of Fox and Friends. You know, Obama has czars. I googled czar. Did you know that's a Russian word for a Russian leader? Or they'll go through, these children in second grade are singing the praises of Obama. Did you know they sing the praises of their leader in North Korea? And then when the hard news comes on, they go, some people are concerned that they're indoctrinating children.
So you think that the Fox News channel is set up solely to provide aid and comfort to the Republican Party
That's
and the
right.
conservative movement?
That's right.
Nothing else.
And to
Then
make some money.
Then
Here's-
why?
okay.
Whoa! Why wouldn't John McCain come on his program during the last campaign? Why did he dodge us and not come on? If
You
your
didn't- but you
thesis
di-
is that we're in business to help the GOP, he wouldn't come in.
But you're not in business to help John McCain. He is not GOP enough for you. You're in business to
Dick
help
Cheney.
Sarah Palin.
Dick Cheney.
And now you,
Dick Cheney is
Right.
to you Mr. Republican. Wouldn't come on the program.
not Mr.
Stewart.
Republican. Well, because Dick Cheney,
Well,
again,
why?
this atmosphere, there's a lot of light, which he's obviously allergic
Stop.
to.
Come on.
There's an opportunity to brush past the
I just gave you two
which will then
examples
die.
that you can't refute with your propaganda.
But that doesn't
outlet.
mean anything.
I too am allergic to light.
And plants.
That's yeah. That right there is the prime example that I wanted to pull from this episode. Is O'Reilly was making a point, and Jon Stewart let him have it. He just let him say his bit, and then he can retort. And in this case, his retort was humor as opposed to actually answering the
Right.
question. But just the fact remains that he saw that, okay, he's obviously got a trail he needs to blaze here. Just backs off, lets him do it.
Well, and I think in the humor, he sort of ceded the point.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't appear on the show, and I can't remember if that was true or not. I'm not going to go back and analyze the accuracy of it, although there was an option there to either argue the fact or to gracefully acquiesce, and he acquiesced with a little bit of comedy, and I thought that it was...
Yeah.
He didn't agree with them, perhaps, although he didn't have to say that.
And Reilly did the same thing when Jon Stewart gave his little joking example of Fox News and how it ramps up. O'Reilly was laughing because O'Reilly gets it. Like he may not agree with it. He may think it's a massive overstatement, but he gets the inherent point that Stewart's making.
Right.
He's not throwing it back in his face as being, you're just making fun of these good, hardworking. He's not doing any of that. He's like, oh yeah, you made a valid point, and it was funny to boot.
Yes. On to clip 3.
Yes.
Okay, now, I have to vet you. I'm vetting you on the air. Global warming.
What about it?
All right? You're big on that. You're frightened of it. You want to flee, don't you?
Flee what? The Earth?
The planet, yeah.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay right now, yeah.
How bad is global warming?
I live on like the 12th floor. I should be okay.
Yeah, but you saw that.
I'm a little worried about my neighbors.
You saw that Emmerich movie. You saw that Emmerich movie.
I'm hoping some of their plasma screens float up. Okay. So I'm okay.
It's a big problem, though. Is it global warming? I got to have your POV on this.
I guess, look, I'm not a scientist. I can only assume common sense. If you burn a lot of stuff and put it in the atmosphere, it means something. What it means, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with the idea that you can treat the Earth like you would, your dial in your house and adjust the climate.
So what do you want to do about global warming? What do you want to do?
What do I want to do about it?
No more barbecues? What do you want? What do you want?
I really enjoy barbecue. What I would like to do about global warming is I think rebuild our energy infrastructure. That super grid sounds like a pretty good idea.
Green energy?
If it makes sense. I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't. It
cap
seems like
and trade?
It makes sense.
You want to?
No, I think cap and trade is somewhat of a silly idea. In the same way that I think carbon credits, I guess they are. What is it called? The carbon. You want to have a party and you want to.
Yeah, Al Gore, the carbon trade thing.
You get credits.
Right.
You can go online and it's like it reminded me of the old indulgences of the Catholic Church. You're
Al Gore.
Hey, I don't mind copping a feel on that 12-year-old. Here's $100. You know that.
Well, Al Gore can fly in a private jet, but then he reads books by candlelight. It's a carbon offset.
That stuff that's bothersome to me. The idea that people whose carbon footprint. I think it's got to be a much larger discussion about a new.
But you believe in global warming, man-made.
Do I believe that man has something to do with it? I have no reason not to.
Okay.
I am
had
a
Gore
person
on your
who
program,
believes in
right?
science.
Gore came on.
He was on the program.
Right. Did you ask him that he made $100 million off the global warming?
I didn't ask him that.
No?
No. Should I have asked him that?
I think so.
All right, I'll ask him that.
Because that's a good question.
That is a really good question.
$100 million he's made.
That's why you're Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate
that. That's why you're Bill O'Reilly.
That's why you're Bill O'Reilly, yeah. That was so wholesome to watch. O'Reilly asking questions and Jon Stewart kind of adjusting how he's explaining them, and O'Reilly letting him.
So one of the
O'Reilly's
things
yeah, go ahead.
That in listening to them and knowing a little bit about them away from interviews away from the camera, they really are really intelligent people.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed in that clip.
Mm-hmm.
At least I thought it did.
Yeah. Like, I like how when this may be nitpicky and I could be reading too far into this. I like how when Jon Stewart's trying to talk about carbon rebates or taxes or whatever it was he was referencing, he's not talking about it in the sense that he had talking points or cue cards that he was going over before the show, or he pre-researched what he wants to talk about on the show. That sounded like somebody who's pulling from the back of their head an idea that they have a loose grasp on. And it makes me feel like Jon Stewart actually cares about the things that he's talking about, because he's obviously reading about this stuff for the sake of just knowing about it, not for the sake of spinning it on his show.
Right.
If he's spinning it on his show, he would have had a spin lined up, ready to go, one locked and loaded. And he didn't. He was just talking.
I would agree with you on that. I think that this is not a what's the word I want? It was a conversation in between a couple of guys who don't agree with each other on a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And all the topics were easily arguable. And they argued in such a way that nobody was hurt or belittled or offended or angry. It just was, I don't agree with you. I think a little bit differently, but that's okay.
Yeah. And when O'Reilly tells Stewart, hey, you should have done this thing.
Yes.
You had this person. You could have asked this question.
Yes.
And Jon Stewart took it earnestly. Do you think I should have asked that question? Yeah. Next time I'll do it.
Yeah.
And that may have been slightly snarky, but he took the criticism from O'Reilly on the chin.
Yeah.
Quite earnestly.
It was not in this one, although it was in a show with Jon Stewart and your hero,
Tucker Carlson.
Again, maybe we'll play that one another week. In which Jon Stewart is a little bit harder on Tucker than he is on Bill O'Reilly, and he says, "Hey, I'm a comedian. You're the reporter.
Mm-hmm.
Why are more people listening to me and looking to me for advice? They ought to be looking at you, and you're not leading them." And it was an excellent.
I feel like we're outing ourselves as Jon Stewart fans on the show right now.
Yeah, I do like Jon Stewart. I can't argue that.
If anyone wants a good, you know how every now and then you need a good cry. If you go look up, there's a video on YouTube of like a 9-minute video of Jon Stewart giving a speech before a House committee.
Yes.
On the 9/11 first responders bill.
Yes.
Go watch that sometime. I dare you not to well up while listening to his speech.
I dare you to watch it and not get really angry at politicians.
Yeah, that too. I mean,
I didn't cry when I watched it. I just got mad because he laid open every flaw about politics in that 9 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, it didn't do a whole lot.
No, it did. They passed the bill the next day.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still not perfect, but it did something.
It did something, but I mean,
the bill that they had at the time,
yes,
at least,
yes,
which was still, yeah. But anyways, it's really good.
Yes,
it's really good. We may try to find a link for that and put it in the description of today's episode if we get the chance.
So we're going to go into your rant as you have a rant, and while you do that,
yes,
I'm going to grab a couple of images on the next topic.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you your rant, and I do want to say before, I hadn't watched your rant, and I do have some pushback, although I'm going to let you have your say.
Yeah, let me have my rant, and then we can talk about it.
And then I'll come back
preface the rant. I'm going to give a little preamble before we play the clip, because I have a clip I want the world at large to see/hear. This is a clip from the Matt Walsh podcast, a podcast hosted by a gentleman named Matt Walsh, who I don't like. I'm sure you've heard me make criticisms and comments about him in the past. And this is just a clip from his podcast, which he films similar to ours. So for those of you watching live, you get to see it. For those of you listening, you'll get to hear it. Enjoy.
So dating is like this. Whereas before you had only the eligible single people in your town to choose from, now you have the entire internet. You're not confined by geographic boundaries or any other boundaries. The result, ironically, is paralysis. Now, on the complete opposite end of this spectrum are arranged marriages. Instead of a boundless, never-ending buffet of options, a young person in a culture that practices arranged marriages will be assigned just one, and they don't even make the choice. Their families just pair them up and say, here you go. There's far less freedom and far less autonomy in a system of that sort, but it is without a doubt superior to our system. We would be happier. Every person in the dating scene right now would be happier if they were just matched up with someone against their will, actually.
So I don't think it's difficult to pinpoint why that frustrates me, but I want to get into it a little bit deeper. It's not just the surface level of him implying that arranged marriages are okay or even superior to the current dating system. My concern is largely rooted in how he frames it and how he words it. He words his things like talking about how bad the dating scene is here, and there are so many options that all you get is paralysis. you can get paralysis. You could be paralyzed by the excessive choice. That is something that happens, and that is a very real concern. And I think it's a very good point to bring up and talk about. But for him to say that that's the only outcome, that's it. That I think is disingenuous at best and outright misleading at worst. And then he goes on to imply that arranged marriages would be better than our current system. I would understand if you were to take arranged marriages and compare them to our current system and say maybe that the current system might be worse, or that you can use that comparison to point out the failings of our current system. But to imply that people would be happier or that arranged marriages are better, and I say imply, he's really riding the line between implying and outright saying that arranged marriages are the better way forward, or the better than what we have. Later in his episode, I want to give context. Later in his episode, he does talk about alternative ways. He wants to talk about courting and different style of dating that is more Judeo-Christian in its structure, which is okay. And I wish he could have alluded to that within that section of his podcast, because the majority of the people that are talking about that episode of that podcast on Twitter and other social media are referencing that clip that I just sent, that bit. That's the bite that makes it into the greater internet. And he doesn't do anything to correct it. The most I've seen him do when I was looking at his Twitter around the time that this came out was saying that, hey, you guys are taking that out of context. That's all he said. He rolls his eyes at the internet trolls. It would not be hard for him to clarify that he doesn't think that arranged marriages are good. He just thinks that the way things are is even worse. That's an okay standpoint to have. I don't agree with it, but that's okay. But the way in which he words it is implying that arranged marriages are good. And there are people that watch his show and listen to his show that look up to him very earnestly and think that's what he's saying. If you read the comments on his video, which I don't want to have, because a lot of the commentators have their own names and profile pictures on their YouTube profiles. I don't want to show that here, but it's easy for you to look it up if you feel the need to. They take what he's saying earnestly, whether it be they assume that he actually means that arranged marriages are good, and they're like, whoa, we're from countries where that's a thing, it ain't good. Or the people who are saying, yeah, no, this system really does suck. Something like that would be way nicer. They're taking it at face value. And he's been doing this long enough that I find it impossible to think that he doesn't know that people are taking what he's saying at face value. And I think that is atrocious. I think that is absolutely deplorable of him. He obviously has the intelligence and the skills to do better and to talk about it more thoroughly and with more nuance, and he doesn't, because sound bits like that go viral.
It's sort of, I have lots to say, but I don't know if any of it is helpful. I think that you and I agree that it is a lousy dating scene out there. It's not healthy. It's not helpful. The culture of dating in the world now is not. It isn't good.
That's a deeper conversation to have. It has the propensity to not be good, and it certainly has the capability to not be good. That doesn't mean that it's all bad.
And I could agree with that. I mean, I don't think anything is all good or all bad. I just think it has a lot of leanings.
It's low commitment to the extreme.
Yes. It's no commitment.
Is the modern dating scene. Yeah.
It's no commitment. And I have problems with that as an older person.
Oh, absolutely.
I have problems with that as a conservative and as a Christian. But here's where I push back a little bit, and it sort of goes into the rant I had in my pocket, and I'm not going to get into it much. It is all the controversy on Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. How you hear something should not have a whole lot of weight on the person who said it if that was not what he meant you to hear. So what you were saying in your rant was, all he had to do was all he had to do was clarify it. As all these trolls are taking it out of context, he should do more. That would never end if you had to fix every opinion of what you said and say, hey, that's not what I meant. It's a never-ending battle.
True.
And to look at him and say, you should have said more in explanation for what you said, even though
that's okay.
It's a little bit disingenuous.
I agree. I'm going to try and make up a crappy metaphor here.
Okay.
So
I make them up all the time, so I'll give you one.
Yeah. Let's look at this as, so you're saying that that's a never-ending thing. Basically, to try and reach perfect clarity will never happen. You can keep adding nuance and keep adding clarification onto your points, because inevitably somebody will have a problem with some part of what you're talking about. So you'd have to keep clarifying and keep clarifying and keep clarifying.
Well, I was more on the other angle and saying I don't have to worry about how you receive what I say.
Right. Sort of. When you're someone like him who makes a living off of making a product that you want to be received by people, and you've been doing it for as long as he does, he knows how people are going to receive his product with at least a certain amount of assurance. And so he knows that people are going to receive it this way. And it's not the trolls taking him earnestly. If trolls are taking him out of context, I don't care. They're trolls. It's people that are genuinely taking him out of context that I have a problem with. And he knows that people do it because of how he's saying it. If you want to, and let's say you have bad guys in a city. Let's say you got a whole bunch of enemy combatants in a town.
Right.
And you have the Matt Walsh option that he just took, which is nuke the damn town. No nuance was involved. Hard statements, extreme statements are all he made. He just wiped the town off the face of the earth. Didn't matter if there were good people, bad people in there, if there were innocents. He just wiped off the face of the earth. He did it. He made a point that the system is bad, but there was no clarity. Now, obviously, you can't necessarily, you don't have the time as a single person to go through every single house and search every single room for every single bad guy. That is also not doable. But there is definitely a whole lot of middle ground in there for dealing with that situation. Or in this case, in Matt Walsh's case, he has his own freaking podcast that he can set his own schedule on. He could take an extra 5 minutes to just even the tiniest little bit of nuance and clarification as to the point that he's trying to make. But he doesn't, because he knows he doesn't need to.
So I'll tell you what, I'm going to make a link in the comments in the description for that podcast episode.
Please do.
Because I'm going to go back and listen.
I
thought he did balance it. I thought a little bit later on in the podcast, although I didn't listen to all of it. So I'm going to go
clarify and offer alternative suggestions later in the episode. Right. Like I don't want. He has a lovely habit on Twitter of claiming that whenever somebody thinks that he said a bad thing, he says, "Well, you're taking it out of context," or he says, "Well, watch the whole episode," or "You obviously didn't get what I was pointing out." I don't want that to be the case here. Go listen to the whole episode, check for more context. I don't think that I'm cherry picking too harshly. He does add some very minor clarification later, but then he doubles down on the arranged marriages are better part at the same time. So,
and there are people who believe that arranged marriages are good. I'm not one of them, but
mostly the people arranging the marriages.
Yes,
mostly the people who are arranging them are the ones who think it's a good idea. So,
but
I'm pretty comfortable saying that it's a garbage idea.
But I think as well that the lack of responsibility and commitment is equally as bad of an idea, and that is acceptable.
Do you want to hear my awful take?
Yes. What are your awful take? Yes.
The dating market right now, the dating scene, is a hardcore capitalist dating scene. The option is there for no commitment. But there's nothing saying people can't be super committed. There's nothing saying you can't write in your profile, I am looking for XYZ. And there's nothing saying you have to talk to people who don't share similar values. This is like capitalism gone wild. The market should decide what's better. And the market is. And it's not good.
I think you will see that the market is going to say this is not good.
Eventually
you're going to see emotional hurts. You're going to see... You're going to see physical nonsense. You're going to see the results of this. And we're going to go, ooh, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. But in the meantime, we do need to point it out as
Oh, absolutely.
members of our
pointing it out-
society.
Absolutely. By pointing out how low commitment and shallow the dating scene is right now, we're helping the next generation, or I mean, to a certain extent, our generation, but also the people beneath us, to understand how shallow it is. And so when they get involved in dating, they're going to have they're going to be aware of what's coming down the pipes. That's something that I find with a lot of internet stuff, as I've been spending a lot of time lately with my with my quote unquote nephews who are in their early teens and preteens.
Right.
Their understanding of the shallowness of social interactions in this day and age of the internet is astounding to me. It is astounding to me how aware of that they are.
Why is that astounding to you? I don't understand that.
Because I wasn't aware at the time. I'm only more recently in my now in my 30s becoming aware of just acutely aware of how shallow the internet has made a lot of our social interactions. But they've grown up with it. That's the world they've grown up in. And they are already almost as well equipped to deal with it as I am. So I'm not saying that makes it okay.
Right.
I am saying though that I do think to a certain degree it's going to balance itself out, because they're going to come into the system in a couple of years being like, oh yeah, we know how shallow it is and we don't want to take part in that. So they're going to do it differently. Because the dating platforms exist with the ability to be shallow, and people have capitalized on that because it's easier, it's lazier, it's less effort. But when people really want to find something, the capacity to do so is still there. The capacity to find meaningful relationships, or ones involving religion or more traditional relationships, the capacity is there. It hasn't gone away.
Right.
Now, the world is moving away from those sorts of relationships. Society as a whole is thinking less of them. But that's not the dating scene's problem. That's just a byproduct. I have a lot of thoughts on this topic.
I gather that. I am happily not in the dating scene, and I don't plan to ever be in the dating scene. So I'm not going
My
to.
time in the modern dating scene was the Wild West.
Yeah, I'm not going to be. I think that's. For the record, I'm not a fan of Matt Walsh.
Yes.
Except I think you're taking him out of context. And I'm going to go and listen to it, and I'll report back next week.
Please do.
As I think that this is...
I welcome the nuance
and
the critique.
On to other topics.
Mm-hmm. Try to keep this one short, because we promised we wouldn't.
Yes. So this week in the news, there's a whole bunch of truckers in Canada which are driving across the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And they are
protesting enforced flu treatment.
Yes, there you go. They are not against the flu treatment. It's the enforced flu treatment. Man, can we get around this?
The infringement on their freedom to choose whether or not they want to be treated for a flu.
Right.
Or preemptively treated for a flu.
And you have a personal connection to this.
I do. Do you have the picture you could throw up? Picture. This is from the Alaska Highway News, which is where I live. I just doxed myself. The gentleman there with his truck and his sign, the rig that he mounted the sign on, he came to our truss shop and asked us if we could build it. And my boss, who supports the movement there, was more than happy to. Shout out to Northern Truss, who supported this movement by building that rig for him at no charge.
And it was interesting.
So yeah, I have a mild personal connection.
I've been very loosely, I've been following this because it is a very, it's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 80 miles or 90 miles of trucks.
Yeah, we'll circle back to just how big it is. I want to touch on that later in the conversation, but yes.
I have a bit of a video here of it.
Mm-hmm. Is that in Ottawa right now?
No,
they should be arriving
live
today, I believe. Okay. Well, they should be arriving at some point today.
Well, they are there. I saw a live video, although it wasn't really all that clear. Except, interestingly, throughout all of this, the media coverage has been less than stellar.
It's been divisive, to say the least.
Yes. There are I don't know what the word is. I agreed with you. That's all that matters. It's been angled. It's been
spun.
Yes. It's more on the news in the U.S. than it is in Canada.
For some stations, yeah.
Which is weird. Absolutely weird.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, it is. Here's an article on CBC from this morning at 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And the lead line is here are the thousands opposed to these rules. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not thousands. It's hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's millions.
Thousands involved in the convoy.
Yes.
And I would probably agree with you that the number of people in at least tentative support of this protest, we'll call it a protest,
is in the millions.
I'd say it's probably in the millions, yeah.
It is.
I mean, just their Facebook page alone for it was,
yes.
I believe, when it finally got suppressed, it was close to 1 million.
Yes.
I haven't, apparently, as of this morning, the page has become suppressed or inactive.
That's
I don't
possible.
know why yet. I haven't looked into it.
No. There is a reason for it, I believe, is because I think is that you're dealing with a lot of extremists.
Yes.
And that happens in any protest. And so you're going to have the idiots who are the fringe.
We
and
saw
those,
it
yeah.
With the Manitobans against
yes.
Yeah, that whole page and the interview we did there.
Yes.
We saw it with that page. It was
yes.
an immense amount of work for the moderators there to keep the page neat and tidy so that they wouldn't get shut down because
right.
the extremists would flock to it.
You know, and the it's aggravating for those of us who just want to have a conversation about these things. It's hard to watch. The major news media, well, the Prime Minister of Canada hasn't really helped matters
I'm
either.
I'm gonna pull up that quote, actually.
Would you pull that up? Yeah.
I'm going to.
As your Prime Minister in his response to this was less than helpful. Have you got it there?
I'm just trying to find the exact quote that I'm looking for.
So earlier yesterday, there was a story of there was a group of Hutterites
mm-hmm.
who had gone and made a meal for all the truckers who were in the convoy. And they went to serve them, and they weren't allowed to get a stop because it was unsafe or something. So they went on the road with them for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then they fed them. This is a group of Hutterites who believe in peace for all men, who are not a violent sect, who are not a protesting. And they went on the road and they gave all these guys food. That should show those in power that there's more than just a little bit of angst here.
Mm-hmm.
Are you finding it?
I'm trying to find the not representative. A very small but very vocal minority of Canadians who are lashing out at science, at government, at society, at mandates and public health advice. He's treating them like a petulant child. And I want to be very clear. I don't particularly agree with what these people are protesting. I mean, to a certain extent I do, but I think that it's I just in short, I don't agree with it very much.
Okay, there. I sent you the quote as.
Okay.
This is a more important one, I think, and this is
Yeah.
more why everybody's mad at him.
This is the one I was looking for. Yes. So this is a quote from Justin Trudeau at his press release. I can't remember if it was yesterday morning or the day before.
It was the day before.
The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa, who are holding unacceptable views that they are expressing, do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other, who know that following the science and stepping up to protect each other is the best way to continue to ensure our freedoms, our rights, our values as a country, Trudeau said Wednesday. There you go. A small fringe minority is not what this is representing. This is a massive this is a protest that the Guinness World Records is looking at.
Who gets
as one
to
of the largest?
Who gets to say a view is unacceptable?
He can say it's unacceptable all he wants, but he, as a leader, is doing a crap job of hearing them out. Like I look at this, and I don't agree with the protest, with what they're protesting. I don't agree with what they're saying. And as many bad actors as might be involved in this convoy, and as many people may have people have been calling out, any relation to the Maverick Party or the lady who helped start it, how she used to be a supporter of so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter, because so far, this cross-country convoy in protest has been peaceful. Not only peaceful, has been an exemplar of Canadian community and hospitality. With the Hutterites fixing these people massive buffets, with police forces helping to escort and move traffic as they move around and through cities. This has been an absolutely amazing week for Canada as a people to show the world how to do a peaceful protest right. And I pray that it's going to stay that way through this whole thing. Even though I don't agree with them, I fully agree with their right to do it.
Here's my question, and this is one that we had a number of months ago for Sean Cahill in the Facebook group, is will it change anything?
I don't know.
And it will be interesting as hopefully when you get 1 million individuals in a country of a little over 30 million, so you're looking at a fairly high percentage of people, it should say something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it will. I don't know that it will fix
I don't know
anything.
if it'll change it. I don't know if it'll change it on a federal level. I think it will change it on a community level. I think I hope people, especially if they can manage to pull this off and to finish their protest without incident, I think it will show people that it is not just a couple of oddballs that hold those beliefs, and that maybe we need to take a little bit more time and put some more effort into, from my point of view as a progressive, I hope that people in my camp can look at this and be like, okay, we need to take more time and more effort and do a better job of trying to convince people and talk to them and interact with them and get them to come see our side of things, rather than just relying on the government to tell them to do it and expect them to just bend over and take it. Because if the government was telling me to do something I didn't want that was diametrically opposed to my views, I would be rightfully miffed too.
Yeah.
It just so happens that what they're doing is something I agree with, at least to a certain degree. But if the shoe was on the other foot, I would be upset too.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to watch this in Canada as it unfolds, as it's gaining a lot of momentum as it goes across the country. Mm-hmm. The GoFundMe was up to 4 million and
6.
Change. Oh, is it 6 million now?
It's past 6 now. Although I have some updates around that as well.
Okay.
GoFundMe has held the money. They've locked down. They can't take any of the money out of that right now.
Okay.
GoFundMe has a policy when fundraisers hit a certain plateau, like a certain point, that the people who are receiving the money have to give GoFundMe a breakdown of how they're going to use it, like how it's going to be spent. Yeah. And so they're still working out how to do that. Okay. The lady and the people involved with running this whole protest are aware of that. They're not freaking out because GoFundMe's stealing their money. They're like, okay, yeah, no, cool. We're going to figure that out.
Right.
Now, some bad actors and some people under them are freaking out, but that's okay. I don't care what they think.
Right.
The people who are actually managing the money are taking it in stride and doing their jobs.
It was interesting
So,
in
yeah.
the photo here that you sent me.
Mhm.
So I know the guy on the right,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe the left. I can't remember now. It's such a fuzzy picture.
Mm-hmm.
But I know him. He's an everyday reasonable guy.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of everyday reasonable men and women who are involved in this convoy who hold very valid opinions about this issue at play. And I can only hope that each of them are given the voice they deserve.
Yeah.
So
It's the only last thing I want to touch on before we close up shop. I know we're running a little bit over time now. Specifically in regards to the reporting on this whole convoy, I want to draw attention to how people talk about the size of the convoy as an example for the disparity in reporting here, because there have been admittedly small extreme right-wing groups that have reported the convoy as 500,000 people strong. And then you have on the other side, you have sources like the Kingston police. When the convoy passed through Kingston at 7:45 this morning, they gave a full count of the convoy at 17 tractor trailers, 104 tractors with no trailers, 424 passenger vehicles, and 6 RVs. That's not 500,000 people. And when you on the right inflate those numbers, you could maybe say that 500,000 people are involved or support it, but there are not 500,000 people in the convoy, or even 10,000 people in the convoy. Not even close. You undermine the credibility of the movement as a whole when you lie about it. I have said the same thing for people on the left when people on the left used to make up crap about President Trump. There are plenty of things to harp on him for. You don't have to make things up, because every time you make something up, you undermine the actual legitimate efforts. And every time somebody lies about the size of this convoy, you undermine the actual integrity of the movement. So stop it. Be honest.
Yeah.
A convoy of, what is it, like close to 550-ish vehicles rolling? That is a huge convoy. That is big. That is world class.
Yes.
We don't need to lie about that. That is a big number in and of itself.
It
we
is.
Don't need to inflate it.
It's interesting.
Just be honest about it.
In the inflation of the numbers and the deflation of the numbers.
Yep.
Either way, if all these guys are off the job, huge impact in trucking.
Yeah,
huge
massive
impact in trucking. And I think that if nothing else, if any of you are going into Costco and looking for TP next week and it isn't there, maybe you should thank a trucker. Because if all these guys are out of a job, you're going to have a shortage of TP. It will happen. And again, this is one of their arguments. Is everything in the stores now? It all comes by truck. Every single item in your store. So
then we start devolving into don't like the fact they're kind of holding their industry ransom, but that's a whole other issue in and of itself. I just wanted to talk about the convoy and how I think it's cool and people need to be honest and stop screwing around with the numbers.
Yes, and I agree with that.
Ruining it for the rest of them. They're working very hard to make their movement heard, and you're not helping it.
That's true.
We're helping it, though, because we're nice.
Or something.
Or something.
William.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to end our show this week?
I would love to. Stay safe, folks. Don't die, and have a good night.